The massive alien ships appeared without warning. One moment, Earth's skies were clear. The next, 12 crystalline vessels hung above every major city. They were beautiful in a terrifying way, like icicles made of starlight. Admiral James Parker stood at the United Earth Defense Force Command Center, his weathered hands gripping the steel railing as he stared at the main screen. Sweat trickled down his neck despite the room's cool air. Around him, dozens of officers worked at their stations, their movements quick but controlled. They had trained for first contact, but not like this. "Sir, they're broadcasting on all frequencies," reported Lieutenant Evans from her communications station. Her voice remained steady, though her fingers trembled slightly over her keyboard. "Put them through," Parker ordered, straightening his uniform. The room fell silent as the main screen flickered to life. The alien that appeared looked almost like a statue carved from blue crystal. Its 4 eyes glowed with inner light, and when it spoke, its voice resonated like wind chimes in a storm. "Beings of Earth, I am High Commander Vex of the Dominion Fleet. Your planet now belongs to us. Surrender, and you may serve. Resist, and you will be eliminated." Parker took a deep breath. "This is Admiral James Parker of the United Earth Defense Force. We wish to negotiate peaceful." "Negotiate?" Vex's laugh sounded like breaking glass. "Your species still uses combustion engines and silicon-based computers. What could you possibly offer in negotiation?" As if to demonstrate their power, one of the alien ships casually fired at an empty field in Kansas. The beam of light that struck Earth left a perfectly circular crater 3 miles wide and a mile deep. The message was clear. "You have 6 hours to surrender," Vex stated, and the transmission cut off. In the emergency meeting that followed, Earth's military leaders gathered virtually to discuss their options. Their most powerful weapons, nuclear missiles, railguns, even the experimental plasma cannons, all seemed pathetically inadequate against the Dominion's technology. "Their shields are like nothing we've ever seen," explained General Martinez, his hologram flickering with frustration. "They're not just energy barriers. They seem to adapt to whatever hits them, becoming stronger against that specific type of attack." In the back of the room, Tom Miller shifted uncomfortably in his chair. As the youngest weapons specialist in the UETF, he usually kept quiet during these meetings. But an idea had been forming in his mind. An absolutely stupid, possibly brilliant idea. "Sir," he finally spoke up, his voice cracking slightly. "I think I might have a solution. But you're going to think I'm crazy." Parker turned to him, desperation visible in his eyes. "Son, right now I'd consider a plan to defeat them with bad jokes if it had any chance of working." Tom pulled up a file on his tablet and projected it onto the main screen. "Well, sir, it's not bad jokes. It's rubber ducks." The silence in the room was absolute. Then someone laughed. A short, sharp sound quickly stifled. "Hear me out," Tom continued quickly. "Their shields adapt to energy weapons, right? They're designed to handle high-tech threats. But look at these readings from the Kansas attack. Their system is so advanced, so specialized, that it might actually be vulnerable to, well, stupid things." He pulled up more data. "Their shields are like a boxer trained to defend against professional fighters. But what if instead of throwing a punch, we throw a pie? They're not calibrated for that kind of absurdity. You want to attack an advanced alien fleet with rubber ducks?" Parker asked slowly. "Yes, sir. Millions of them, launched at relativistic speeds. Their shields won't know what to classify them as. They're not weapons, not really. They're toys. But at those speeds," Tom's eyes gleamed with excitement, "well, even a rubber duck hits hard when it's moving at a significant fraction of light speed." Parker looked around the room at his fellow officers. They had 6 hours until the deadline. Their conventional weapons were useless. And here was this young specialist suggesting they fight an alien invasion with bathroom toys. "Miller," Parker said finally, "that is the stupidest idea I've ever heard." He paused, then smiled grimly. Let's do it. Get me every rubber duck on Earth, and someone find me a mass driver we can modify. If we're going down, we might as well go down in history as the people who fought aliens with rubber ducks. As the room burst into action, Tom couldn't help but grin. Sometimes, he thought, the stupidest idea might be the smartest move of all. The next 5 hours were the strangest in human military history. While the alien ships loomed overhead like crystalline daggers, Earth's remaining factories switched from making cars and computers to producing rubber ducks. Yellow, blue, pink, every color imaginable rolled off assembly lines around the world. Tom Miller stood in the New Mexico desert, watching as workers modified a mass driver that was originally designed to launch satellites. Now it would launch something very different. Behind him, trucks kept arriving, each filled to the brim with rubber ducks. This is either going to be the most brilliant military strategy ever, Lieutenant Evans said as she walked up beside him, or we're about to make complete fools of ourselves before the aliens kill us. Tom nodded, checking his calculations again on his tablet. At least we'll give them something to remember us by. How many ducks do we have now? Just past 3 million, with more coming in. She looked up at the nearest alien ship, barely visible as a glinting point in the evening sky. The mass driver modifications are almost complete. We can start loading in 15 minutes. Admiral Parker arrived just as the final adjustments were being made. He looked tired but determined. Miller, please tell me this isn't going to be humanity's last stand. Death by rubber duck. The math checks out, sir, Tom replied, showing him the simulations. We're going to accelerate these ducks to just under the speed of light. At that velocity, even a rubber duck hits with the force of a small nuclear weapon. And because they're technically toys. He grinned. Well, let's just say their fancy shields might have a small duck-shaped hole in their programming. The first test shot contained just one duck. They aimed at a patch of empty desert, just to check the acceleration systems. The duck disappeared with a sound like thunder, leaving a trail of superheated air. When it hit the ground 20 miles away, it created a crater that could be seen from space. Well, Parker said dryly, that's certainly something. Load the first real volley. Target the smallest of their ships. Might as well start with an easy target. They loaded 10,000 ducks into the modified mass driver. Tom's hands were shaking as he input the firing coordinates. Above them, the alien deadline was just minutes away. The mass driver hummed to life. On the command center screens, they could see High Commander Vex preparing to make another announcement. His crystalline face showed nothing but contempt for the humans who had failed to surrender. Fire, Parker ordered. 10,000 rubber ducks accelerated to near-light speed, hit the alien ship shields at exactly the same moment. For a second, nothing seemed to happen. Then the shields flickered, not the usual smooth absorption they showed when hit by conventional weapons, but a strange, stuttering pattern, like a computer trying to process contradictory information. The ducks passed through. The smallest alien ship didn't explode. Instead, it developed thousands of tiny holes, each perfectly duck-shaped, and began to spin slowly in space. Its lights flickered and died. In the command center, the humans watched in stunned silence as High Commander Vex's transmission cut off mid-sentence. Then someone started laughing, and soon everyone joined in. They were laughing because it had worked, and because they had just defeated an advanced alien warship with rubber ducks. Load the next volley, Parker ordered, wiping tears of laughter from his eyes. Let's show them what else is in humanity's toy box. The remaining alien ships started to move, finally recognizing the threat. But their weapons, designed to stop missiles and energy beams, struggled to target the streams of brightly colored ducks now rising from Earth's surface. Tom watched the data streaming in from their sensors. The alien shields were trying to adapt, but they couldn't seem to decide if they should treat the ducks as weapons, debris, or toys. Each time they adjusted their shields to stop one type of duck, the humans simply switched to a different color or size. Sir, he said to Parker, I think we might need to start mass-producing other toys too, just to keep them guessing. Parker nodded, already reaching for his phone to call Earth's remaining factories. What did you have in mind? Well, Tom said, a gleam in his eye. Has anyone ever tried to shoot a slinky at relativistic speeds? High Commander Vex's face appeared on every screen in the command center. His crystalline features were twisted with rage, making him look like a cracked mirror. You dare mock the might of the Dominion with children's toys? His voice shook with fury. We will turn your planet to ash. Admiral Parker watched calmly as 3 more alien ships moved into attack position. Actually, he said, we're just getting started. Lieutenant Evans, launch operation playtime. Across Earth, mass drivers that had been hastily modified in the past 24 hours hummed to life. This time, they weren't just loaded with rubber ducks. Humanity had raided every toy store, every warehouse, and every factory they could find. The first wave was beach balls, thousands of them, painted in bright rainbow colors. They moved so fast, they left trails of plasma in the sky. The alien ships tried to dodge, their advanced engines pushing them through complex maneuvers. But it's hard to dodge something moving at near light speed, especially when that something is bouncing. Sir, Tom called out from his station, excitement in his voice. The beach balls are working even better than the ducks. Their round shape is causing some kind of weird ripple effect in their shield harmonics. The aliens' return fire was fierce but uncoordinated. Their energy weapons, designed to track and hit logical military targets, seemed confused by the streams of toys flying through space. One beam meant to hit a cluster of beach balls instead struck one of their own ships, causing its shields to flicker dangerously. Time for Phase 2, Parker ordered. Launch the Slinkies. Metal Slinkies, accelerated to incredible speeds, unfurled in space like shimmering springs of doom. They twisted and coiled around the alien ships, their kinetic energy wreaking havoc with shield frequencies. One Dominion vessel spun wildly as it tried to untangle itself from what looked like a cosmic rainbow slinky net. The command center erupted in cheers as another alien ship's shields failed completely. Before it could recover, it was pelted with a barrage of rubber chickens, each impact leaving a perfectly chicken-shaped dent in its crystalline hull. Tom was practically bouncing with excitement as he read the incoming data. Their whole defense system is based on predicting logical attack patterns, he explained to Parker. But there's nothing logical about a rubber chicken moving at relativistic speeds. Their computers are crashing trying to make sense of it. Parker nodded, a smile tugging at his lips. What's next in the toy box? Sir, you're going to love this, Tom said, pulling up a new diagram. We've modified a mass driver to launch soap bubbles. Soap bubbles, Parker repeated flatly. Filled with compressed air and reinforced with a special polymer coating. When they hit their shields, Tom's grin widened. Well, let's just say it's going to be the biggest bubble bath in history. The bubbles worked even better than expected. They created strange, rainbow-colored explosions against the alien shields, each pop sending waves of disruption through their defense systems. The Dominion ships started to retreat, moving back to higher orbit. But the humans weren't done yet. The next wave was a mix of Play-Doh containers and giant Jenga blocks, all accelerated to speeds that turned them into colorful weapons of mass destruction. The aliens' communications became increasingly panicked as their sophisticated targeting systems failed to handle the onslaught of childhood fun. This is impossible. Vex's voice boomed through the command center, cracking with disbelief. Your weapons are fun, Parker suggested helpfully. Maybe that's your problem. Commander, you forgot how to play. The battle continued as Earth's factories worked overtime, converting assembly lines to produce more toys. Scientists were already working on new combinations, relative velocity yo-yos, supersonic teddy bears, and something Tom called the ultimate weapon. Jack-in-the-boxes moving at near light speed. Sir, Lieutenant Evans reported, trying to keep a straight face, Moscow is reporting they've successfully launched their first wave of accelerated Lego bricks. Parker winced. Now that's just cruel, even for aliens. The Dominion fleet was in chaos. Their rigid military doctrine had no protocols for dealing with an attack that seemed to break every rule of warfare. As another ship fell to a barrage of light-speed lawn darts, Tom turned to Parker with a serious expression. "Sir," he said, "I think it's time to tell them about our secret weapon." Parker raised an eyebrow. "Which is?" "We've got a mass driver loaded with Monopoly hotels, and they're all painted red." Deep in the bowels of the United Earth Defense Force headquarters, Dr. Anna White of the Psychological Warfare Division watched recordings of alien communications with growing interest. The Dominion soldiers' behavior was changing. Their once precise movements had become jerky and uncertain. Their voices, usually cold and mechanical, now carried traces of something that sounded almost like fear. "They're breaking," she told the gathered military leaders. "Not just militarily, but mentally. These aliens built their entire civilization on logic and predictability. Now they're facing an enemy that turns toys into superweapons. It's destroying their worldview." On the main screen, footage showed alien crews abandoning their posts when attacked by giant purple dinosaur plushies moving at near light speed. Another clip revealed a Dominion captain having what appeared to be a breakdown after his ship's sensors detected an incoming wave of light-speed bouncy balls. Tom Miller watched from his seat, taking notes. "So you're saying we should make our attacks even more ridiculous?" "Exactly," Dr. White replied. "Their minds can't handle the cognitive dissonance. They're like chess masters being forced to play Candyland. And losing." Admiral Parker rubbed his chin thoughtfully. "Miller, how long would it take to paint our remaining ships to look like cartoon characters?" Tom's eyes lit up. "The maintenance crews could do it overnight. But sir, I have an even better idea." He pulled up a new design on his tablet. "What if we made giant inflatable decoy ships, shaped like rubber ducks?" In space, the Dominion fleet was already showing signs of strain. 3 more ships had retreated after being hit by a barrage of relativistic teddy bears carrying tiny umbrellas. High Commander Vex hadn't made any public announcements for days, not since a light-speed slinky had wrapped around his flagship's command tower. The humans pressed their advantage. They launched waves of toy soldiers that exploded into showers of confetti on impact. They fired streams of soap bubbles that created rainbow-colored explosions against alien shields. Each attack was carefully designed to be not just destructive, but silly. Incoming transmission from the enemy flagship, Lieutenant Evans announced one morning. The screen lit up to show a Dominion officer, not Vex, looking distinctly uncomfortable. "We request clarification," the officer said stiffly. "Our latest scans show what appears to be a fleet of—" He paused, as if the words physically pained him. "Giant yellow waterfowl approaching our position." "Oh, those are our new Duck-class battlecruisers," Parker replied cheerfully. "Would you like to see what they're carrying? Here's a hint. Remember Monopoly hotels? Well, we've upgraded to full Monopoly boards now. At relativistic speeds, even the little metal dog piece packs quite a punch." The alien officer's crystalline face cracked slightly. Behind him, other crew members could be seen staring at their sensors in horror as the duck-shaped ships drew closer. In the conference room, Dr. White nodded approvingly. "Look at their body language. They're not just afraid of the weapons anymore. They're afraid of what we'll think of next. Their entire military doctrine is based on escalating force with bigger, more powerful weapons. They can't understand an enemy that responds to their planet-destroying weapons with toys." Tom was already working on the next phase. His tablet showed designs for what he called Operation Birthday Party, a massive attack combining party streamers, balloons, and those little paper party horns, all accelerated to near-light speed. "The best part," he explained, "is that when the party horns hit their shields, they make that funny noise. Even in space. We tested it." Admiral Parker looked at the plans, then at the screen showing the increasingly distressed alien crew. You know what? Add some light-speed confetti cannons to the duck ships. If we're going to break their minds, we might as well be festive about it. As if to prove Dr. White's theory about psychological warfare, the alien officer on screen flinched visibly when someone off-camera whispered something about incoming pinwheels. "One more thing," the officer said quickly. "High Commander Vex wishes to know. He demands to know. Why are you doing this?" Parker smiled. "Because sometimes, Commander, the best way to win a serious war is to stop being serious." He turned to his crew. "Launch the duck fleet, and someone get me those confetti cannons. It's time to throw a party these aliens will never forget." Word spread quickly through the Dominion fleet about the humans' latest weapon. Some claimed it was a lie, a trick to further confuse them. Others insisted it was true. The humans had found a way to weaponize something called silly string at relativistic speeds. They were all about to find out who was right. Tom Miller stood in the newly renamed Toy Warfare Command Center, watching as the final preparations were made. Around him, screens showed the positions of the remaining Dominion ships. Their once perfect formation was now ragged, with gaps where vessels had either retreated or been disabled by various toy-based attacks. "Operation Rainbow is ready, Stir," he reported to Admiral Parker. "We've loaded all available mass drivers with silly string canisters. The special coating should keep them stable until impact." Parker nodded, trying to maintain his serious expression despite the ridiculousness of the situation. "And the backup weapon?" 5,000 twister mats, accelerated to near-light speed, ready to launch on your command. We've also got the giant Jenga blocks standing by." The Admiral turned to Dr. White, who was studying the latest psychological reports. "Doctor, will this break them?" She smiled. "Their entire society is based on order, structure, and clean lines. Hitting them with weaponized chaos in string form. It's like throwing paint on a mathematician's perfect equations." The attack began at dawn. Streams of silly string, moving at speeds that turned the colorful foam into devastating weapons, burst from mass drivers around the globe. The alien shields, still struggling to classify this new threat, fluctuated wildly. Some of the string got through, wrapping around ships in bright, messy strands that hardened on impact. High Commander Vex's voice boomed through space, but this time it cracked with genuine panic. "What is this madness? How dare you soil our mighty vessels with these colorful strands?" "Oh, you think that's bad?" Parker replied cheerfully. "Wait until you see what happens when we start firing the Play-Doh. Ever tried to get that stuff out of crystal structures?" The Dominion crews were visibly losing their composure. Their ships, once gleaming crystal masterpieces, now looked like they'd been attacked by a rainbow gone wrong. Silly string drifted in space, creating a colorful hazard field that their navigation systems couldn't properly process. Then came the twister mats. "Left foot red," Tom shouted as the first wave hit, earning strange looks from his fellow officers. "Sorry, couldn't resist." The mats, their colorful dots turned into deadly weapons by sheer speed, slammed into the alien ships. Each impact left perfect circular marks in the crystalline hulls, creating patterns that looked disturbingly like actual twister boards. In the chaos that followed, something unexpected happened. A junior alien officer aboard one of the smaller ships started laughing. The sound, picked up by Earth's monitoring systems, was strange and musical, like wind chimes in a tornado, but it was definitely laughter. More aliens joined in. Soon, entire crews were breaking down in fits of hysterical giggles. The rigid discipline of the Dominion fleet began to crack like their crystal ships. "Sir," Lieutenant Evans called out, "we're picking up unusual communications between their ships. They're asking each other what color silly string hit them. They're comparing patterns. Some of them are trying to play Twister using the impact marks on their hulls." Dr. White leaned forward, fascinated. This is it, the breaking point. Their minds couldn't maintain the contradiction between ultimate weapons and children's toys. They're embracing the absurdity as a defense mechanism. High Commander Vex's flagship suddenly lit up with all its weapons. For a moment, everyone in the command center held their breath, expecting a final devastating attack. Instead, the energy weapons fired into space in complex patterns, creating what looked suspiciously like a light show. Are they putting on a fireworks display? Tom asked incredulously. Sir, Evans called out again. We're receiving a transmission from multiple Dominion ships. They're requesting toy catalogs. They want to know what else we have. Parker looked at his team, then at the screen showing the silly string-covered, twister-marked alien fleet. Well, he said finally, I suppose we should tell them about water balloons next. After all, sharing is caring. In the background, the sound of alien laughter continued to spread from ship to ship, a strange but oddly hopeful music in the toy-strewn battlefield of space. The revolution began with a squirt gun. Not just any squirt gun, but a massive reinforced water cannon that the humans had loaded into their largest mass driver. The water inside had been replaced with rainbow-colored, non-toxic paint. When it hit the Dominion flagship at near-light speed, it created the galaxy's biggest art project. High Commander Vex watched in horror as his once pristine ship turned into a floating rainbow. But what happened next shocked both humans and aliens alike. His own crew started taking pictures. Look at these patterns, one alien officer transmitted excitedly. The human paint weapon has created a masterpiece on our hull. Tom Miller couldn't believe his eyes as he watched the alien communications flood in. They're sharing photos, like tourists. Admiral Parker leaned back in his chair, a smile playing on his lips. Well, I'll be damned. They're actually enjoying it now. The command center screen showed more and more Dominion ships breaking formation, but instead of retreating, they were lining up to be hit by the paint cannon. Some crews were even sending requests for specific colors. Sir, Lieutenant Evans reported, trying to keep her voice professional despite her grin. We're receiving a formal complaint from the third ship in line. They say it's unfair that the flagship got more purple splatter than they did. That's when the mutiny officially started. Junior officers across the Dominion fleet began demanding that their superior officers lighten up, a human phrase they had apparently learned and fallen in love with. Ships started painting each other with their own weapons, modified to shoot colorful patterns instead of death rays. High Commander Vex's authority crumbled faster than a sandcastle in a hurricane. His final transmission to Earth consisted mainly of incoherent spluttering as he watched his fleet turn into a floating art gallery. This is First Officer Blex, a new voice announced over the command channel. We have. What's the human term? Yes, we have grounded High Commander Vex. He is currently in his quarters with a stress ball we found in the human toy catalog. He seems to be enjoying it. Tom turned to Dr. White, who was documenting everything with barely contained excitement. Did we just win a galactic war by turning their fleet into an art class? Better than that, she replied. We taught them how to play. The next few hours were the strangest in human military history. Dominion ships, their crystal hulls now decorated with paint, silly string, and twister patterns, began requesting permission to land. Not to conquer or attack, but to trade. You have to understand. First Officer Blex explained to Admiral Parker during the first official peace talk. Our society has been focused on efficiency and logic for so long, we forgot about fun. He held up a rubber duck with an expression of wonder. Do you know this is the first time in 1,000 years that anyone in the Dominion has laughed? Parker watched as alien crews mingled with human soldiers, trading stories and toys. One group was teaching their alien counterparts how to play hopscotch. Another was explaining the rules of Duck Duck Goose, which the aliens found both confusing and delightful. Sir, Tom called out, you might want to see this. On the main screen, the remaining Dominion ships were arranging themselves in a new formation. As the humans watched, the ships used their newly colorful hulls to create a giant smiley face in space. We request First Officer Blex said formally that Earth become the Dominion's official supplier of joy and creativity. Also, we would very much like to know more about something called bubble wrap. Our scientists find the popping sound most intriguing. Admiral Parker looked around at his command center. The serious military facility had somehow accumulated rubber ducks, toy soldiers, and an impressive collection of silly string over the past few days. His best tactical officer was teaching an alien how to use a slinky on the stairs. "Well," he said finally, "I suppose we should show them our gift shop. After all, every good museum has one." "Museum, sir?" Tom asked. Parker gestured at the colorful alien fleet. "Of course. What else would you call the galaxy's biggest modern art exhibition?" 6 months after the Great Rubber Duck Invasion, the galaxy had changed in ways no one could have predicted. The peace treaty between Earth and the Dominion was signed aboard humanity's newest diplomatic vessel, a massive ship shaped like a yellow rubber duck, complete with a squeaker sound effect for its horn. Tom Miller, now Earth's ambassador of fun, a title he still couldn't believe existed, stood in the ship's main hall, watching as alien diplomats played with various Earth toys. The sight of crystalline beings in formal robes playing hopscotch would never stop being amusing. "Ambassador Miller," a familiar voice called out. First Officer Blex, now promoted to High Commander after Vex's early retirement, approached with what appeared to be a jump rope made of crystalline energy. "We've successfully adapted some of your Earth toys using our technology. Would you like to see?" The demonstration that followed was impressive. The aliens had taken simple Earth toys and added their advanced technology, creating things like zero-gravity frisbees that could chase their targets and jacks that multiplied when bounced. They'd even made a version of Play-Doh that could transform into simple living creatures. Admiral Parker, watching from nearby, shook his head in amazement. To think, 6 months ago, we were preparing for the end of the world. Now look at us. We're hosting an intergalactic toy convention. He wasn't exaggerating. The rubber duck ship's cargo hold had been converted into a massive toy fair where humans and aliens traded ideas about play. Earth's toy manufacturers were working overtime to keep up with demand from across the galaxy. Apparently, nothing said peace between worlds quite like a good game of tag. The former Dominion war fleet, still decorated with paint and silly string, had been repurposed. Some ships became mobile art galleries, displaying their battle scars as masterpieces. Others were converted into what the aliens called joy delivery vessels, spreading toys and games to the farthest reaches of their empire. "The Council of Logic is in complete disarray," Blex reported happily, bouncing on a space hopper he'd become particularly fond of. "They tried to ban fun as illogical and disruptive to proper order. We responded by filling their chamber with bubble wrap." The session ended when the head counselor couldn't stop popping it. Dr. White, who had written several papers on the psychological impact of the Great Toy War, was giving a presentation to a group of alien scientists. Her main thesis, that play was as essential to advanced civilizations as technology, had revolutionized alien sociology. They'd even created a new field of study, terrestrial recreation sciences. "The best part," Tom told Parker as they watched an alien child teach a human child how to play with a gravity-defying jump rope, "is that they're already innovating. Did you see the new toy they invented? It's like a combination of chess and Twister. I'm still not sure how to play it, but it's fascinating to watch." The ship's intercom crackled to life with an important announcement. The annual intergalactic rubber duck race was about to begin. Thousands of rubber ducks, both normal and technologically enhanced, would compete in a zero-gravity race around Earth's moon. The winner would get their duck design mass-produced as an official peace treaty commemorative toy. As everyone moved to the observation deck, Parker pulled Tom aside. "You know, Miller, when you first suggested fighting aliens with rubber ducks, I thought you'd lost your mind. I've never been happier to be wrong." Tom smiled, watching as the first wave of ducks was released into space, their little yellow forms glowing against the stars. Some spun, some shot forward on tiny crystal engines, and one appeared to be doing a musical number. "The thing is, sir," he replied, "sometimes the best way to change the universe is to remind it how to smile." On the main screen, the race commentary was being provided by a retired Dominion battle computer that had been reprogrammed to speak entirely in duck puns. As human and alien children cheered together for their favorite ducks, Tom realized something profound. They hadn't just won a war, they'd created something much more valuable. A future where different species could play together among the stars. And somewhere, in a comfortable retirement home for reformed military commanders, former High Commander Vex was finally learning to appreciate the simple joy of a rubber duck in his bath. He'd never admit it, but he'd named it Admiral Quackers.